Welcome to Tim's Take, and today we have a very special guest, Josh Klostermann, who is a PhD student with Dr. Debbie Finke in entomology. Now, Josh, you're a little bit different in that you're talking about wasp.
I am, yeah.
And when we think about wasp, we think about paper wasp or yellow jackets or hornets, and we don't like those. But you said there's a whole lot more to it than just that.
Oh, yeah. There's like about 1 million more species to it than that.
And they all sting us, right?
No. Most of them don't even have a sting.
So it's just more the ones that we think of, the paper wasps. I guess that's the reason that we know about them is because they're annoyance to us.
Yeah. And so paper wasps and all of those social wasps like yellow jackets and bald-faced hornets and whatnot, the ones that you probably immediately conjure up when you hear the word wasp, are really the exception in the whole world of wasps. They are these social insects, and most wasps don't build like a hive like that.
So are our hornets and our yellow jackets and our paper wasp? I mean, what do they do? Surely there's a purpose for them.
Yeah, without a doubt. They like to put their nests in safe places, and typically those safe places are human-made environments.
Under
eaves and sheds,
right.
In any place that's like almost mimicking like a cave-like dry habitat on the landscape. So
Sure.
we kind of, through our making of these structures on the landscape, encourage these wasps to be near us always.
Sure. But you said they're bringing back caterpillars, so they help keep those things in check a little bit, don't they?
They do, yeah, they do. So they're hunting like caterpillars and other maybe potential pests of plants that you've grown.
Right. So, but now these other wasps that we're talking about, what's some examples of those, and what do they do?
Maybe we should step back and kind of like define what a wasp even is.
Sure. Big picture.
Big picture. What is a wasp? Well, wasps are a type of insect, and they're part of the order Hymenoptera. So the order Hymenoptera is an animal group that is one of the most speciosed animal groups.
Animal or insect?
Animal. So all insects are animals.
Okay. I think in kingdom, phylum, then order.
Yep.
Okay.
Class and then order. Yeah.
Okay.
Class and then order. So insecta is a class. And then within insects, there's all these different orders. So there's like things like grasshoppers, there's mantises, there's flies, there's butterflies, there's all these are different orders within
Lepidoptera,
butterflies,
yes.
Yeah, exactly. So 4 of the most diverse animal orders are within the insect kingdom, and wasps is one of those insect orders. So within the wasps, there's over 150,000 described species known to science.
But 1 million more that haven't been described.
Yeah, that don't have names yet. So that's a whole lot of work out there for someone to figure out in the future. But yeah, so wasps are these like incredibly diverse, this incredibly diverse group of animals, and they have all sorts of important functions on the landscape. They do all sorts of things on the landscape. What is a wasp? A wasp is a kind of insect that undergoes a full metamorphosis, much like a butterfly.
Egg
to larva to pupa to adult.
So they still go through all that, just like a butterfly.
Just like a butterfly does.
Okay.
And they're also, what makes a wasp is that when they're a larva, they have these mouth parts that are used for processing food. So like whether it's like the body of another insect or a pollen nectar provision that is kept in a nest. So they have these like chewing mouth parts that
mandibles.
Mandibles that are like a grasshopper's. But when they pupate and turn into adult, the middle parts of the mouth fuse into like a proboscis, like a butterfly, like that long curly sucking, like so it can suck nectar out of a flower if it needs to, but it retains the mandibles. So when you see like a yellow jacket and you picture those like sharp mandibles, that's unique to wasps. Wasps are the only insect order that have mandibles and a sucking mouth part.
So bees are in this order.
Yep.
Do they have that?
Yep, they have that, yeah.
Okay, so even our bees and our ants also.
Ants also have that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we have biting ants.
Yeah.
Ants can bite you.
But it's what's really interesting about why they retain these mouth parts is like adults, they're not eating at all. Adult wasps don't like consume any food like we think of like a mantis eating like some other insect. They only visit flowers for nectar and sugar.
So even paper wasps are pollinators?
Yeah, because they're visiting flowers. They could potentially pollinate if they pick up a kind of pollen or any pollen grains on them and then move between flower heads. Yeah, they could pollinate.
But the larvae stage, that's what's consuming the soft-bodied caterpillars.
Yes, but the adults are the ones that are going out, grabbing them and bringing them back to the larva.
In their nest.
Yeah. But the adult themselves don't eat any kind of other insect. They just will sting and paralyze an insect and bring it back to a nest and feed their young with it, or leave it in the nest for their young to eat once they hatch.
So that sting, like when they give us that sting, is that the same sting they give the caterpillar?
Yes.
But it hurts so bad.
Yeah. The sting is in and of itself like an incredible thing that like has evolved on like this planet. The sting. So going back to like what is a wasp? We got like 150,000 described species. Classically, wasps are separated into two main groups. One of them is called the symphyta, or like the wood wasps and the sawflies. Even though they got fly in the name, they're not a fly; they're a wasp. And then there's the apocrita, or the thread waist wasps. So those are like once you jump into the world of wasps, there's two groups you can go down. There's those wood wasps, which are these very strange, don't have a sting. They don't have a sting. It looks like they have a sting.
Ovipositor.
Exactly. Yeah. So
I read your story.
Yeah. So it almost looks like on the end of a grasshopper. You know or like a katydid, when you see like that long, sharp, like sword looking like appendage on its butt. It'll use that ovipositor to lay its eggs into, let's say, like a decaying log where there's like some grub in there, and then it'll lay its eggs on that grub. But the really interesting thing about that is just the trajectory of that ovipositor through time. So like you have these wood wasps that they kind of even look like a grasshopper. They don't have that pinched waist like that other group does. They're kind of like tubular, and they like struggle with getting their ovipositor in the right places to put their eggs. So to solve that problem, wasps eventually evolved to have this thin waist where they're able to kind of, like articulate it, like move it around into different places. So they're all of a sudden, when that adaptation evolved, that thin waist, they were able to access a whole much larger array of prey items than before. So once that modification on the wasp body showed up, it exploded the diversity of wasps, because now they're able to hunt all of these other different organisms on the landscape.
So they're a big hunter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When you talk about prey and predator, they're a big time predator then.
Oh, big time. And they have all sorts of different ways of finding the very specific things that they hunt.
Wow. Where your sawflies are they're not as advanced on the evolutionary scale then.
Yeah, they're the oldest groups. They're like the dinosaurs of wasps. But
which have been around since the dinosaurs.
Yeah. I think the first fossil record of a wood wasp or a sawfly is from
100 million years ago.
Yeah, 100 to 200 million years ago, yeah.
So what do they feed on then? Are they very specific then? Because they really can't feed on a lot of different things.
Yeah, they're very specific in what they feed on. They're really interested in that their larvae are caterpillar-like. So they look like caterpillars, they move around, and they eat vegetation like caterpillars, a lot of them. So that's much different than like the little grub that you imagine they're caterpillar-like. These dinosaur-like wasps are more like, you could even say, butterflies than they are like wasps. Sure.
Where your thin waist ones are more like grubs.
Yes.
Like we see in the soil sometimes, these small grubs.
Yeah. So some of those wood wasps are like specialized on like, there's like the elm zigzag sawfly, which is just newly introduced into the U.S., just found in Minnesota for the first time last year. So they're really interesting and will have specialized relationships to plants. So some of their larvae will eat vegetation, but then some of the species within that group have moved from a plant feeding lifestyle to eating like the larvae of other insects, like beetles and logs.
Because you mentioned the wasp help keep your foliage eating larvae down, caterpillars. Because without them, we'd denude our forest, we'd denude our crops.
Yeah, because there's just so many plant-eating insects out there that, like, if there were no predators of plant-eating insects, they would just consume all of the vegetation on the landscape.
So keeping that in check. You know, when I was reading this article, one of the things I thought about was in gardening, the tobacco hornworm in tomatoes. I mean, they can just devastate a couple of tomato plants. They eat so much. But if you see one with the wasp eggs on them, leave it alone.
Totally.
Because that's what they're doing, isn't it? They're laying the eggs, so the larvae then will consume the caterpillar.
Yeah, so the tobacco hornworm is parasitized by a type of ichneummonid wasp, which is a member of this thread-waisted wasp group. Which is an extremely large group of wasps, and this group contains everything from those parasites of caterpillars to ants to potter wasps to bees. And these wasps, especially those ichneumonids, are like these like chemical detecting agents on the landscape, where they can, a caterpillar takes a bite out of a plant and scent molecule of that plant, it'll pick it up and find exactly where that caterpillar is.
And then sting it.
And then not sting it. Or, well, some of these ones will sting, but they have a very different kind of venom in their ovipositor than, let's say, a paper wasp. Their venom is meant almost exclusively to suppress the immune system of that caterpillar, so that caterpillar's like white blood cells, quote unquote. They don't have those, but their immune system doesn't attack the egg once it's inside of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they have this really complex.
That's complex.
Yeah, they have this crazy like venom that has evolved to shut down the immune system of a caterpillar,
but not
kill it. Because their young still needs to eat it.
Oh, wow.
So this caterpillar will stay alive, but it won't be able to get rid of these eggs that are now in its body, and then the larvae that are going to hatch and then eat it from the inside out.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on in nature, isn't there?
Yeah, it's pretty gruesome, but...
So a lot of our wasps, or at least all of our wasps, are part of this ecosystem that keeps the caterpillars in check. But also, in this whole wasp order, you mentioned bees and ants.
Yeah,
because they're part of this too.
Yeah, and they're some of the most important insects on the landscape.
But they have diversified, because you mentioned some of this order that's Hymenoptera.
Yeah, yep.
You got it. I got it. Some are winged.
Yeah.
Some aren't.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. And this kind of gets into, we can get into the word a little bit here. Hymenoptera, Ptera, Ptera, means wing.
Okay.
So any of the insect orders that end with optera are insects with wings.
Ants don't have wings, do they?
No, but they're within Hymenoptera, and they've lost their wings, and male ants have wings.
because you see like flying
you
ants.
You fly them around. Those are all males.
So termites would be in this too, wouldn't they?
They're in a different order.
Oh, really? Okay.
But yeah, so that's just like when you hear like Orthoptera,
yes,
which is the grasshoppers, they have wings.
Sure.
Diptera is flies, and the funny thing about that word is di means two, and ptera means wing, and they're one of the few insect orders that only has two wings.
Okay.
So diptera means two winged.
You know, we discussed this earlier, how we get bogged down in the Latin names.
Totally, yeah.
On it. But it's good to understand the Latin names because it really describes those insects.
Yes, that's one of the beautiful things about learning the scientific name of insects is it typically you'll get some sort of information about what that insect looks like, where it's from, or the kind of habitat that it's in, unless someone went ahead and named that insect after a person, in which you get no information whatsoever.
So you think you'll have one named after you someday?
I would advise anyone who wants to name a bee or any kind of insect after me not to. I would be upset about it.
All right. Well, maybe if you discovered one in a million that haven't been named yet. No.
Name it about the landscape or where it's from, or like a defining trait on it that can help you identify it. Like it makes identification so much more easier when the name of that insect has a thing that refers to what it looks like.
Do the plants sometimes share a same Latin name? Because
especially if the insect is a specialist of that plant. So a good example of this is so many bees are specialized to only one plant or a group of plants. And an example of this is Andrena rudbeckiae. Oh, and that's
Rudbeckia. That's a.
You got it, Black-Eyed Susan.
Yeah, but I couldn't say it. Black-Eyed Susan.
Yeah. So Andrena rudbeckiae is a mining bee. That is a specialist of plants in the genus Rudbeckia.
Wow.
So just within that name, you can tell where to find this bee.
Right.
Is at Rudbeckia.
Was a prairie or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So if you build it where they come, then if I plant some Rudbeckia this weekend when it's going to snow, will I start getting some of these very specialized wasps coming?
Certainly. So this is what some of my most recent research is investigating. Is I'm going to these farm bill plantings that are
like the farm bill,
so like SEEP or equip and like CRP plantings and whatnot. I'm going around to these sites that are pollinator plantings now, pollinator restorations, and evaluating whether or not they're working. So I'm going
What's
there.
out there, and if you've got this diversity.
Exactly. So I'm going out there to these sites and sampling for bees on plants and like looking for their nests in these agricultural or pollinator plantings. And I'm finding that, yes, when you do plant the plants, if those bees are already within the latent area around the planting, they will certainly be attracted to that planting. So all these plantings that I've been surveying are like anywhere from 5 to 7 years old. And at some of these plantings, I'm getting like upwards to like 40, 50 species of bee.
So if I had this refugee, this equip planting next to my fence row, and I still have a 160-acre field, they could fly out in that field and bring back caterpillars that are eating the foliage.
Totally. Yeah.
And like you said earlier, it just depends on how big they are. How big of a caterpillar that they can bring by.
Yeah, and that's where like when we're thinking about like putting in these pollinator habitats, we're typically focused on reestablishing the floral diversity so that like bees and other pollinators can have something to eat. But what we largely like do not consider is the addition of nesting habitat. So before a bee or a wasp can even go out and make its next generation, it needs to find a specific nest site on the landscape. So it needs to find and construct a nest in a specific place, and then it will go out into whatever meadow or planting and collect those resources that it needs, whether it's pollen from a plant or a grasshopper on the foliage of a plant. And then it will bring that prey item or food item back to its nest. So when we're thinking about reconstructing habitats, it's also important to think about where are these like bees and wasps going to nest. And that's a big part of my work is like looking at like how can we or what areas in these plantings already are places where individual wasps and bees put their nests, and how can we create those spaces in these plantings?
Because you mentioned like on creek bottoms, it's a bonanza of different type of species.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And and an important part of what maintains that diversity along the edge of a creek is the disturbance of that waterway flooding once every 3-5 years. So it wipes the slate, the vegetation is cleared, bare ground is opened up, and you have a different plant community now than you did before that flood or that disturbance event. So I think that like disturbances, anything from mowing to the addition of a large mammal on the landscape, or even a tree falling in a forest, can provide these types of disturbed spaces or modified spaces that are now brighter, have more soil exposed, heat up quicker. These are spaces on the landscape that bees and wasps are attracted to put their nests.
So like our burning of our...
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be a good one too.
Yeah. And there's a lot of work that has been shown that like bees will respond to prescribed burns in like prairies.
So in the fall, you see a lot of folks. They'll say, "Don't clean up your flower beds.
Yeah.
Leave it alone, because this is the habitat for them for the wintertime, isn't it?"
Totally. Yeah, this is huge for bees and all sorts of insects in the winter. Is just a lot of them are hibernating under leaf litter, underground, or within plant material. So lots of them there's a wide range of groups that will a wide range of bees that will nest above ground in twigs. So like there's lots of bees that will nest within like raspberry, like brambles. They'll scrape out the inner part of the stem, and they'll put a line of eggs in little chambers within that stem, and the following year they'll hatch. So if you go ahead and lop that bramble stem and throw it in a plastic bag and put it in the garbage, those bees are going to emerge into a garbage bag the following year.
Well, when we had our cicadas infestation, or every year we get some, but a couple of years ago we had a lot of them.
Totally.
But you could see that on those stems, on the oak trees, often you'd see them, the eggs being laid. Kind of the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. A thing about that was when I wonder if there's this relationship between cicada emergences and ground nesting bee populations increasing the following year, because I imagined, like, remember when that happened and you would walk even just, I mean, anywhere, you would see all these holes in the ground that these cicadas all emerged from. Now they're just holes that are in the ground that are open and empty. So I think that that's a very optimal place for a bee to nest, especially when the construction of the nest is such a energy expansive thing for a bee to do. If a bee just flies over like this area where a bunch of cicadas emerged from, they could just be hey, this is I don't even need to build a nest right now. I can just build the chamber that runs off the main tube of the nest. So
the next year you may see a whole lot of bees.
Exactly. I think that would be such a phenomenal study, but it would need to happen.
13 more years.
I gotta wait another 13 years to do it, or chase them around the U.S. when they merge.